Imagine for a second that you are standing in the center of the most powerful royal court in the ancient world.
Just completely surrounded by the entire political establishment.
Right, and you've just walked out of the wilderness, you're carrying your child, and you are looking directly into the eyes of the king.
The exact same man who married you in a secret forest ceremony years ago.
Exactly, the man who promised your child the throne. And as you wait for his embrace, he looks back at you, completely blank,
Yeah.
and he announces to his ministers that he has absolutely no memory of you.
Which is just a terrifying scenario.
It really is.
Yeah.
So do you weep? Do you, collapse in shame? Or do you stare down the most powerful monarch on earth and threaten to take his throne by force?
Well, depending on which ancient text you're reading, the answer changes completely.
It really does.
Yeah.
And so does the entire history of these characters.
It is, honestly, the ultimate literary divergence.
Yeah.
You're looking at a single moment that fractured into two wildly different philosophical directions.
Right.
And it shaped the cultural memory of an entire civilization in the process.
Which is exactly why you and I are here today. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Our mission today is to explore one of ancient India's most captivating, debated, and frankly, psychologically complex narratives, the story of Shakuntala and King Dushyanta.
And we are not just retelling a myth today.
No, not at all. We are pulling from a really heavy, incredible stack of sources to figure out how this story works on a mechanical level.
We're examining the raw, fierce, original account in the epic Mahabharata, which was compiled by the sage Vyasa.
Right, and then we're contrasting that with the celebrated classical play Shakuntala by the poet Kalidasa.
And to really get under the hood, we're even filtering these texts through modern Freudian psychoanalytic studies.
Which sounds intense, but it makes so much sense when we get into it.
It does. We're also pulling apart the visual legacy of Raja Ravi Varma's iconic 19th century paintings.
Yeah, what makes this specific stack of sources so compelling is how they actively argue with one another.
They really do. If you look at Vyasa's epic, you are reading about a fiercely independent single mother.
Yeah.
Someone who is demanding justice and speaking cosmic truth to power.
But then, if you shift over to Kalidasa's play, you are suddenly immersed in this tragic, highly romanticized drama.
Right, about a cursed, amnesiac king and a passive maiden just waiting for rescue.
It's such a whiplash. It is this profound exploration of human psychology, of female agency, of dharma, duty and righteousness.
And it's also the literal origin story for the name of the Indian subcontinent.
And let's unpack this, because it all starts with someone who essentially exists outside the normal rules of human society.
Yes, we absolutely have to start with Shakuntala's origins.
Because you can't understand her actions in that royal court later on without understanding that her biological and spiritual pedigree is entirely unique.
She isn't just a princess.
Yeah.
And she isn't just a forest dweller.
Right. She is the physical collision of ascetic discipline and divine desire.
Precisely. Let's look at the mechanics of her parentage, because it sets up the thematic tension for her entire life.
So her father is the great sage Vishvamitra.
Right. And you have to understand the specific kind of power Vishvamitra was wielding.
He wasn't just normal meditation.
No, not at all. He was a king who renounced his throne to become a Brahmarshiya sage.
Right.
And to do this, he engaged in tapas, which is ascetic penance. But in the Vedic worldview, tapas isn't just sitting quietly.
Right. It translates literally to heat, doesn't it?
Exactly. It is a localized generation of immense, world-altering spiritual energy.
It's kinetic. When a mortal starts generating that much heat, the cosmological balance of power starts to shift.
Yeah, the gods don't just admire it. They perceive it as a direct political threat to their hegemony.
Oh, wow. So it's like a cosmic arms race.
That's a great way to put it. Indra, the king of the gods, sees this spiritual heat rising and realizes Vishvamitra is accumulating enough power to potentially unseat him.
So what does Indra do? He executes what is essentially a piece of cosmic espionage.
He deploys Manaka.
Right. Manaka is an apsara, a celestial nymph of just breathtaking beauty.
And her mission is highly specific. Break the sage's concentration.
Right. Introduce carnal desire into a space of absolute ascetic purity.
And it works flawlessly. The concentration breaks, the spiritual heat dissipates into physical passion, and Shakuntala is conceived.
But because this wasn't a union built on anything other than disruption, it immediately falls apart.
Vishvamitra wakes up from this haze of desire, realizes he's been played by Indra, and immediately abandons the relationship.
He just goes right back to his austerity.
Exactly. And Manaka, having completed her covert op, she can't stay on Earth.
Right, so she ascends back to the celestial courts, leaving their newborn infant utterly alone in the forest.
And this is where the environment shapes the child. The sources detail how the abandoned infant is protected by a flock of Shakunta birds.
Which is just such a wild image.
It is. They physically shield her from the elements and predators until she is discovered by another great sage, Kanva.
And Kanva adopts her and names her Shakuntala, which means the one protected by the Shakunta birds.
Right. And the symbolism here is so dense.
I mean, she's essentially the ultimate outsider with a royal and celestial pedigree. She's like a superhero whose origin story places her completely outside the normal rules of society.
Yeah.
How does growing up with birds and ascetics prepare you for the brutal politics of a royal court?
Well, it doesn't prepare you for the politics, but it gives you a completely different baseline reality.
Right.
If you were raised by ascetic monks and wild birds, your reality is completely detached from the transactional nature of urban society.
You are growing up in the Aranya, the forest.
And in Dharmic tradition, the forest isn't just geography. It's a liminal space.
It's the frontier of truth, right? Detached from the ego-driven politics of the city, which is called the Grama.
Exactly. That dichotomy between the Aranya and the Grama is the structural spine of this narrative.
So in the city, truth is negotiated. It is mediated by laws, by public relations, by social hierarchy.
But in the forest, truth satya is absolute. It is the natural law.
And Shakuntala's name, tying her to the birds, represents flight, freedom, and this untamed spirit.
She is a woman who has never been conditioned to suppress her voice, to flatter a monarch.
Which means she is uniquely unequipped for the dissection of the city,
Right.
but uniquely equipped to speak absolute truth.
Yes, and that isolation is inherently fragile. It's a closed ecosystem.
It only takes one intrusion from the outside materialistic world to shatter it.
Which brings us to the catalyst of the story.
The day the ultimate symbol of urban royal power crashes into her peaceful forest. The arrival of King Dushyanta.
Dushyanta is the embodiment of the Grama, the city. He is the king of Hastinapura from the prestigious lunar dynasty.
And his entrance into the narrative is incredibly aggressive.
He doesn't just wander into the forest. He crashes into it on a massive hunting expedition.
Which, as we know, isn't just about getting meat for the palace.
No, a royal hunt in these ancient texts is a display of dominance.
It's the king imposing his order on the untamed wilderness. He is chasing down an antelope, fully armed, charging right to the boundary of Sage Kanva's sacred hermitage.
But here is where the king is forced to yield to the spiritual authority of the forest.
Right, an ascetic intercepts him and commands him to stop.
He says, "Do not kill this animal. It belongs to the ashram. It is a sanctuary."
And Dushyanta, recognizing the boundary of his own jurisdiction, he actually stops.
And what he does next is crucial from a psychological perspective.
Before he enters the hermitage to pay his respects, he physically strips off his royal garments, his heavy armor, and his ornaments.
He literally sheds the kingship.
And our sources point out a fascinating psychological dynamic here, specifically applying a Freudian psychoanalytic lens to Kalidasa's text.
Yes, the Freudian analysis argues that when Dushyanta sheds that armor, he is symbolically shedding his superego.
So his societal constraints, the heavy mantle of the crown.
Exactly, the structured morality of the city. He walks into that pure natural space as a man entirely driven by his ite.
His primal, impulsive, desire-driven self.
Right.
Now, I want to push back on this a little bit because I can hear you, the listener, wondering the exact same thing.
Before.
Are we really using a 19th century Viennese psychoanalyst to decode a 2,000-year-old Sanskrit epic? Isn't that deeply anachronistic?
It's a fair challenge.
Because Dushyanta doesn't have a concept of the id. He has a concept of kama, of desire.
You have to be careful not to force ancient text into modern diagnostic boxes. I agree.
Right.
However, the mechanism Freud describes, the conflict between our base desires and the suffocating weight of societal expectation, is a universal human experience.
That's true.
The Sanskrit texts articulate this through the tension between kama, which is desire, and dharma, which is duty.
So when we use the term id, we are simply using a modern vocabulary to describe what the ancient poets already knew perfectly well.
Exactly. Dushyanta has walked into a space where the rules of his daily life no longer apply.
And his impulse control is just vanishing.
And it entirely evaporates the second he sees Shakuntala.
He walks into this tranquil scene of her watering plants with her friends, Anasuya and Priyambada, and he is just thunderstruck.
He initiates a conversation, and the friends naturally reveal her incredible backstory.
That she is the daughter of a king-turned-sage and a celestial nymph.
And you can almost see the political gears turning in Dushyanta's head.
Because that backstory changes everything.
It really does. As a Kshatriya, a warrior king, Dushyanta is bound by strict marital codes.
Right, he can't simply marry a common ascetic.
But learning of her noble and celestial lineage makes her a socially suitable match.
It removes the final intellectual barrier to his desire.
They're mutually captivated, and they agree to a Gandharva marriage.
Now, we all know the Gandharva marriage is legally valid for Kshatriyas.
Yes.
It's a union based purely on mutual consent. No priests, no fire witness, no parental approval.
But looking at the sources and looking at the reality of the ancient world, the power asymmetry here is terrifying.
It is entirely reliant on honor. The Gandharva marriage is a private contract in a world that operates on public ritual.
Exactly. In a patriarchal society that demanded tangible proof, a secret forest marriage left the woman entirely vulnerable.
I mean, if the man simply decides to deny it, what happens?
Who is going to force the emperor of Hastinapura to honor a promise made in the woods with absolutely no witnesses?
Right. Here's where it gets really interesting. Because he makes massive promises.
He does.
They consummate the marriage, and he promises that her son will inherit his throne.
He hands her his royal signet ring as a token of his promise.
And then he just leaves. He heads back to the capital.
Yeah.
From a modern perspective, this feels incredibly convenient.
It does feel a bit like, I'll call you tomorrow.
Exactly. He essentially goes on a hunting trip, finds a beautiful woman in the woods, marries her without witnesses, makes a massive promise about the throne, and then just heads back to work.
Right.
Is this genuine love or the ultimate ancient world equivalent of stringing someone along? Was he just satisfying his desires and securing his dynasty?
The sources really highlight that pragmatic political angle. Dushyanta is acutely anxious about his lack of a male heir to continue the Puru lineage.
Right, he needed a son.
Kalidasa's text leans heavily into agricultural metaphors. Shakuntala is described as the fertile earth ready to bear the royal seed.
So she represents a dual solution for Dushyanta. She satisfies his immediate romantic fantasy, and she solves the existential threat to his kingdom's succession.
Exactly. So he returns to the city, the Grama.
And Shakuntala remains in the Aranya, pregnant, holding this ring, waiting for a royal escort that never comes.
The silence stretches from weeks into months and eventually into years.
And how the story handles his failure to return is where our sources undergo a massive schism.
This is the fork in the road between Vyasa's fierce reality in the Mahabharata and Kalidasa's romantic ideal in his play.
This divergence is one of the most studied shifts in literary history, isn't it?
It is, because it reflects a fundamental change in what society expected from its heroes and heroines.
So let's start with the older text, Vyasa's Mahabharata.
In this epic, there is no magic ring.
Right.
There is no amnesia. There is no curse. Shakuntala simply stays in the forest.
She gives birth to her son completely alone.
She raises him in the wilderness for 6 years.
Which is wild. 6 years.
And the boy, Faranta, is famously strong. He literally plays by wrestling lions and tying up tigers.
So finally, Sage Kanva tells her it is time. The boy needs his birthright. She must go to the court.
So she walks into the royal court of Hastinapura. Dushyanta is sitting on the throne, surrounded by his ministers.
Yeah, what happens?
Well, Dushyanta remembers her perfectly well.
His memory is completely intact.
Yes. He looks at his wife, he looks at his powerful 6-year-old son, and then he looks at his courtiers.
And he calculates the political costs.
He fears the social scandal of admitting he ran off into the woods, married a girl in secret, and now has a 6-year-old heir no one has ever heard of.
So he lies. He pretends he has absolutely no idea who she is.
He gaslights her, publicly, brutally, in front of the entire power structure of the kingdom.
That is just so cold.
It is. But this brings us to the philosophical core of Vyasa's narrative.
Right.
Vyasa's Shakuntala is not a weeping victim. She embodies the concept of Atman.
The undeceivable soul. Absolute truth.
Exactly. When Dushyanta denies her, she does not care about the social stigma. She doesn't crumble.
She becomes a force of nature.
Her mission is not about romantic longing. It's a cosmic mandate.
She is there to secure the throne for her son, which is her Kula Dharma, her duty to the lineage and to the truth itself.
Now contrast that staggering power with Kalidasa's play, Abhinana Shakuntalam, written centuries later.
The character is almost unrecognizable.
She really is. Kalidasa transforms her from an embodiment of Atman into an embodiment of Maya.
The world of emotion, romantic attachment, illusion, and physical appearances.
In the play, Shakuntala is depicted as delicate, naive, and deeply lovesick.
She is highly sensitive to social shame.
Her motivation shifts from cosmic justice to stridharma, the devotion of a wife seeking her husband's love.
She rarely even speaks forcefully for herself, right?
Right, she often relies on her friends to speak for her.
You can clearly see the shift in what we would call the male gaze.
Absolutely.
In the epic, she is intimidating. She was a force of nature. In the play, she becomes a damsel in distress.
It's very much a softening of her character.
It's like when modern Hollywood adaptations take the biography of a fiercely complex, difficult historical figure and sand down all their edges to make them a likable, traditional, romantic lead.
Kalidasa needed her to be palatable to the classical aesthetic of a romantic heroine, a Nayika.
And that softening isn't just literary. It permeated the visual culture as well.
Definitely. One of the sources we are looking at is the analysis of Raja Ravi Varma's famous 1898 painting, simply titled Shakuntala.
Oh, I love discussing this painting. If you haven't seen it, picture this.
Yeah, describe it.
Shakuntala is walking through the forest with her friends. She is contorting her body, twisting backward, pretending to remove a thorn from her foot.
But the thorn is just an excuse.
Exactly. She is twisting her body specifically so she can look back over her shoulder to catch one last glimpse of Dushyanta, who is completely off canvas.
And her friends are smiling knowingly because they see right through the act.
It is masterfully painted, but as art historians are quick to point out, the psychological framing is very specific.
It physically transfixes her as a desired image for the male gaze.
Right. Dushyanta isn't even in the frame, yet his invisible presence completely dictates her posture.
She is frozen in an act of passive longing. She is literally halted in her journey, trapped by her desire for him.
It perfectly captures Kalidasa's vision of her. But we have to ask why Kalidasa made this massive change.
Right. Why strip away her power?
Why change Dushyanta from a calculating, gaslighting politician into a tragic victim?
The answer lies in the mechanics of classical Sanskrit drama. Kalidasa needed a plot device to save King Dushyanta's reputation.
And to fully understand why Kalidasa softened the story, we have to look at the plot device he invented.
Enter Rishi Durvasa.
Rishi Durvasa is legendary across Hindu mythology for his exceptionally short temper.
He is the walking embodiment of wrath.
So in Kalidasa's play, shortly after Dushyanta leaves the forest, Shakuntala is sitting outside the hermitage.
She is so deeply consumed by her daydreams of her new husband that when Rishi Durvasa arrives seeking hospitality, she doesn't even notice him.
Which is a huge deal. In the Vedic tradition, hospitality isn't just polite, it's a sacred obligation.
Failing to offer water and respect to a guest, especially a powerful sage, is a massive breach of cosmic etiquette.
And Durvasa perceives this as a grave insult, so he unleashes a devastating curse.
He declares, "The man you are thinking of, the one who has made you blind to your duties, will forget you entirely."
He will remember you no more than a drunkard remembers the words he spoke the night before.
It is a brutal punishment for a moment of distraction.
And the craziest part is, she doesn't even hear the curse fall.
No, her friends hear it. They panic, and they chase after Durvasa, begging for mercy.
And Durvasa's anger cools slightly.
He says he cannot retract. The curse words of power cannot be unspoken, but he modifies it.
He decrees that the curse will be broken and Dushyanta's memory will be fully restored the moment he sees a tangible token of their love.
The royal signet ring.
Exactly. The ring Dushyanta gave her suddenly becomes the key to her entire existence.
But Kalidasa is writing a tragedy, so of course, disaster strikes.
As the pregnant Shakuntala finally journeys from the forest to the capital to reunite with the king, she stops to offer prayers at a river.
And tragically, the ring slips off her finger, falls into the water, and is swallowed by a fish.
The proof is just gone.
Gone.
So let's break down the why of this curse. Why did Kalidasa invent this elaborate mechanism of amnesia and lost jewelry?
It comes down to rasa theory. This is the aesthetic theory that governed classical Indian arts.
Right.
According to these rules, the hero of a major drama, the Nayaka, specifically a Kiradata hero, meaning noble, brave, and righteous, must be fundamentally flawless in his intent.
So a king who knowingly and callously abandons his pregnant wife to avoid political blowback is a villain, not a hero.
Exactly. Kalidasa's sophisticated aristocratic audience would have rejected the play.
So the curse acts as a moral shield. It absolves Dushyanta of moral guilt.
He rejects her in the court, not out of cruelty, but because he literally, magically, does not know who she is.
That perfectly explains the literary necessity. But our sources also dive into the psychological resonance of the curse.
Returning to that Freudian analysis,
Yes, and frankly, I find this interpretation brilliant.
the curse can be read as a powerful external metaphor for internal psychological repression.
Think about Dushanta's state of mind. In the forest, he was operating on his id.
But the moment he steps back into the urban palace of Hastinapura, his superego slams back into place.
He is instantly surrounded by the demands of kingship, conventional morality, and political optics.
His mind naturally and subconsciously represses the inconvenient memory of the impulsive forest romance.
So it's essentially cognitive dissonance. The amnesia is a psychological defense mechanism against the conflict between his personal promises and his public role.
The magic curse is just society reasserting its grip on his brain.
So what does this all mean for Shakuntala? Is the curse essentially a metaphor for how society places the burden of proof on the victim?
It absolutely is. Shakuntala makes one tiny mistake. She daydreams, and she pays the price of total erasure.
While the king's reputation and emotional stability are protected by magic.
It explores this tragic irony. True love, formed in the sacred space of the Aranya, shouldn't require a physical receipt.
As the text says, such love does not ask for a token. How could it have been?
Yet suddenly, her marriage, her dignity, and her child's future are entirely dependent on a piece of jewelry.
It shows the fundamental clash between the spiritual purity of the forest, where a word is a bond, and the bureaucratic, proof-obsessed world of the city.
Which sets the stage perfectly for her arrival at the palace.
Right. Armed with nothing but her word in the epic, or stripped of her magical proof in the play, Shakuntala steps into the royal court.
Leading to one of the most dramatic confrontations in ancient literature.
This is the climax, the court confrontation. Truth versus gaslighting.
Let's look at Kalidas's version first.
Shakuntala arrives at Hastinapura, realizes the ring is gone, and is utterly helpless.
Dushyanta, completely under the suffocating weight of the curse, looks at her coldly and says, "I do not remember any union with you."
She tries to remind him of intimate details from the ashram, but he just dismisses her.
In this version, Shakuntala is humbled and devastated.
And before she can be officially cast out, she is whisked away to heaven by her mother, Manaka.
The conflict is temporarily resolved by divine intervention rescuing a distressed heroine.
But the Mahabharata version, oh, you have to hear this.
It is a completely different energy.
It is electric.
In the epic, as we established, Dushyanta remembers everything.
But he lies to protect his image.
He coldly, calculatedly insults her in front of his ministers. He attacks her character to preemptively discredit her.
He leans into deeply ingrained misogyny, calling women natural liars.
And then he goes for the jugular. He attacks her parentage, calling her mother, the celestial Manaka, a courtesan who abandoned her.
He tries to shame her into silence using his structural power as a king.
But Vyasa's Shakuntala does not break.
She unleashes this brilliant, fearless monologue that completely deconstructs his power.
She becomes the ultimate voice of Dharma.
She tells him, "Do not insult me. Your own soul, your Atman, knows the truth."
She warns him that a man who deceives himself, who ignores the witness of his own Atman, deceives the entire world.
And she flips his insult about her birth right back at him. She says, "My birth is superior to yours. You are a mortal king. You walk the earth. I walk the skies."
It is a breathtaking assertion of self-worth.
And then she drops the most famous analogy in the epic.
Right, the mustard seed.
She looks at Dushyanta and says, "You see the faults of others, even though they are as small as a mustard seed, but you do not see your own faults, which are as large as a bilva fruit."
For context, a mustard seed is a tiny speck. A bilva fruit is roughly the size of a large melon.
It is the ultimate ancient mic drop.
It really is.
She's basically telling the most powerful man in the world to check his own hypocrisy.
She doesn't plead for his love. She threatens him. She says, "My son will rule this earth with or without you."
And it is at this exact moment of ultimate tension in the epic that the heavens intervene.
A celestial voice, an Akashvani, booms from the sky, echoing through the court.
The gods publicly, undeniably confirm Shakuntala's truth.
The voice declares, "The mother is only a vessel, the son is the father himself. Support your son, Dushyanta. She speaks the truth.
And Dusyanta's reaction is a masterclass in political spin.
He completely changes his tune.
The moment the gods confirm it, he immediately turns to his ministers and says, "Oh, wow, listen to that. I totally knew it was you, Shakuntala, and I knew this was my son."
He claims he only rejected her so the public would hear the gods confirm the boy's legitimacy.
Dusyanta's excuse in the epic, "I totally knew it was you, I just needed the gods to prove it to my PR team," feels incredibly convenient, doesn't it?
It is a stunning rationalization.
Consider what this says about the vulnerability of women's reputations and the lengths to which society goes to protect powerful men.
Exactly. But regardless of his motives, Dusyanta's acceptance changes everything.
In the epic, Shakuntala's survival and dignity, whether through divine intervention or her own fiery speech, makes her an enduring symbol of resilience.
Meanwhile, back in Kalidas's universe, the resolution takes a much longer, more agonizing route.
Right, because she's in heaven and he's still cursed.
But eventually, a fisherman is hauled into the court.
Oh, this is the part with the fish.
Yes. He was cutting open a large fish and found a royal signet ring inside. The guards bring it to the king.
And the moment Dushyanta lays eyes on that ring, the magical curse shatters.
The repressed memories flood back instantly.
He remembers his love, he realizes he callously rejected his pregnant wife, and he is plunged into depressive remorse over his actions and his lack of an heir.
So following this intense rupture, the story must move toward redemption and the ultimate reason this union was fated to happen.
Good job.
Right. So in Kalidas's play, a guilt-ridden Dushyanta goes to war to help Indra defeat a group of asuras or demons.
This acts as his penance and atonement.
And on his way back, guided by the charioteer Mitali, he stops at the celestial ashram of sage Kashyapa.
And this is where the healing begins.
He sees a young boy confidently playing.
But he isn't playing with toys.
No, he's playing with a lion cub. He is prying the lion's mouth open to count its teeth.
Which is just so cool. It's exactly the kind of untamed fearlessness you expect from their child.
When Dushyanta sees this fearless child, he feels an immediate, overwhelming paternal love, which is called Vatsalya.
He discovers the boy is Sarvadamana, his son.
And then Shakuntala appears.
But dressed in the austere garments of a hermit, her face is thin from fasting and sorrow.
Dushyanta, the great king of the earth, falls to her feet, begging forgiveness.
And sage Kashyapa arrives to explain the curse, finally clearing the air.
The concept of self-actualization in Dusyanta's arc here is so important. Well, the king we saw in the first act was arrogant, driven by physical desire and royal entitlement.
Right.
The king in the final act is humbled, having experienced the agony of loss and the realization of his own flaws.
It's so poetic. It's like the universe had to break them both down, Dusyanta's ego and Shakuntala's isolation, so they could rebuild a foundation strong enough to birth an empire.
Because the importance of Farata cannot be overstated.
Right. The boy is renamed Farata, which means the cherished one.
He is the bridge between the untamed spiritual power of the forest-taming lions and the structured dharmic rule of the city.
He isn't just a kid, he's the synthesis of nature and civilization.
He is the literal embodiment of both Shakuntala's truth and Dusyanta's royal lineage.
And he grows up to be a Chakravarti, a universal emperor.
He unites the land, which is forever named after him, Bharatavarsha, or India.
Wow. It makes me think of that quote from Goethe that we have in our sources.
From 1791, right?
Yes, he read Kalidas's play and praised it so highly. He said, "Wouldst thou the earth and heaven itself in one sole name combine? I name thee, O Shakuntala, and all at once is said."
It perfectly captures how her story blends the earthly struggles of humanity with celestial destiny.
Let's just recap this incredible journey for a second. We started with an abandoned child raised by birds.
We explored the psychology of a sudden romance.
We navigated a devastating rejection shaped by curses and societal pressures.
And we ended with the founding of Bharatavarsha.
It's just massive in scale. Whether you prefer the fierce, truth-telling Shakuntala of Vyasa or the romantic, enduring Shakuntala of Kalidasa, her story really holds up a mirror to us.
It asks us how we handle memory, how we face systemic injustice, and whether we have the courage to speak our truth when the powerful refuse to listen.
We spend so much time focusing on Dusyanta's forgetfulness, whether it was caused by a magical curse or just political convenience.
Right.
But I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. Think about Shakuntala's memory. She never forgot who she was.
You really didn't.
In a world that is constantly trying to make you doubt your own truth, your own history, and your own worth, what would happen if, like Shakuntala, you simply refused to be erased?
That's a really powerful thought to end on.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We'll be back with more fascinating explorations next time. Take care.